This next session is a bit more, I suppose you might call it touchy-feely, but every day of our lives, we'll all make decisions. And I've kind of been interested in what makes one individual make a particular choice versus another choice, and how another individual would make a different choice based on the same available information. And this came into sharp focus for me last year when I was diagnosed with a carcinoma in my piriform fossa. And I faced a choice between chemoradiation and surgery. And the parallels between prostate cancer and what I had were quite amazing, ironic almost, in that there were no randomized trials. We've got outcome data, we've got quality of life data, and we've got opinion. And so it made me really interested in how, well, I obviously had to make a decision, but it made me think a lot about how I was going to make a decision. And over the year, I came across this book, Your Medical Mind, which is written by Jerome Grootman and his wife, Pamela Hartzband. And they write through a series of anecdotes about the facets of the human condition that lead us to make decisions and how we make decisions. And I thought it would be useful to share some of these, that we will then go on and hear from some eminent guest speakers who will take us through what an informed patient is, through how we help the patient make sense of the information. Information is central to the decision, and how the patient is presented with the information is key to them being able to assimilate it and then understand it in a way that it is meaningful to them. Professor Richard Thompson will talk about what is a well-informed patient, so I won't dwell any more on that. But the ideas and the concepts in Your Medical Mind are really a melting pot. So this is my attempt at a melting pot. In the melting pot is the person, the patient, and I think the doctor. We have various facets that will affect how they interpret the information that they get given. So there are framing. I think there was a nice example of framing earlier where it's as sharp as a surgeon's knife, but as soft as an artist's brush. That tells you that radiotherapy is really good, but it's nice and gentle. So you frame the treatment in a way that is attractive to the patient, and that will inevitably affect how they perceive any other information. Availability bias, we will all experience. That's where you know somebody, or you've had the anecdotal patient who's had a miserable time or a brilliant experience, and that one or two people will shape your thoughts about your treatment, and it will also shape your patient's thoughts about the treatment they're offered. So that's availability bias. Intellect is important because how do you make sense of this bewildering array of data? I know this morning we've all seen a lot, and ultimately, opinion matters. Your opinion will be shaped by your character, and your character traits may be summarized as whether you're someone who believes in natural remedies, or you're a technophile, you want the most technological treatment, and it's irrespective of outcome, it's just how you feel. Some of us are doubters, we doubt everything we hear. Others are believers, they believe very strongly in anything they're told. There's maximalists who want the maximum treatment that can be given, and there's the minimalist who really just wants as little as possible so it doesn't upset their apple cart. The patient is all of these, as are every one of us. And I think you need to understand who you are, because when you counsel your patient, you're going to frame the information based on your opinions and biases that are within you. Ultimately, there's a risk and a benefit, and you mix that all up, and you hopefully come to a decision with the patient that avoids regret. Disappointment is something else. For me, I chose surgery, and the oncologist said to me, well, you would, because you're a surgeon. And I thought about this, and I thought, well, yeah, okay. So when I make a decision, I think about what is the worst possible outcome. And for me, it was never being able to swallow. Now, the oncologist will tell me that risk is, well, 1%, 0.5%. It didn't matter. It was just an unacceptable outcome. So I chose surgery. Now, I have absolutely no regret about my treatment choice because I went through the process. I am disappointed that I speak like this, but I don't regret what happened. And I think if I was standing here regretting, well, in fact, I probably wouldn't be standing here if I truly regretted my treatment. So the bottom line is that what we must do when there is no randomized trial evidence that tells us the best treatment, and we have a choice of treatments, the choice of which will be affected by our opinion and the patient's opinion, we've got to provide them the information in a way that they can understand, and we've got to express to them the bias that we will introduce, because there's a real danger that if a doctor tells a patient something, the patient believes that is because the doctor knows something more than they do. And very often it's not that way. But if a patient makes a decision based on that belief, then they may end up regretting the decision and come back to you and say, well, if you told me this, I would never have made that decision. So above all else, we must make sure our patients never regret the decision we bring them to.